Okay, so today we're gonna dive into something pretty fascinating, I think.
Yeah.
The connection between all those trillions of microbes in your gut and how well you perform athletically.
Yeah.
Everything from like how easily you get sick to like your endurance and even like muscle development.
Yeah.
We're going deep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all thanks to, the research that you've been sharing, some really interesting articles. And this review from Sports Medicine really brings it all
Oh,
together.
yeah.
It just pulls together so much of what we know about these tiny organisms and how they can have this huge impact.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, this review looks at a ton of studies comparing athletes and non-athletes,
Right.
the effect of things like probiotics and prebiotics, and
Right.
how this whole microbiome thing plays into, those annoying issues athletes often face.
Yeah, yeah.
Gut problems, respiratory
The
infections.
stuff nobody wants to deal with.
Exactly. And they're even looking at the potential of like personalized tracking
Oh, wow.
for your microbiome.
Oh, okay. For me and for our listeners who want like the quick version, but still want to have those aha moments,
Right.
this deep dive is really key. We're talking cutting edge science here.
Absolutely.
That shows how something you can't even see could really affect your physical abilities.
Totally.
All right, so one of the first things that jumps out, when you look at this research is that athletes just don't have the same gut bacteria as people who aren't athletes.
Yeah, it's one of the clearest takeaways.
Yeah.
And it looks like the type of sport you do really shapes those differences.
Okay, so.
So, for example, athletes in those high-endurance sports like marathon runners, cyclists, things like that,
Right.
they often have more of these specific beneficial bacteria like bifidobacterium and lactobacillus.
Interesting.
Yeah, it points to their gut adapting in this very specific way to the demands of their sport.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Okay.
There's this thing called the J-curve effect.
Right.
And it basically means that, moderate exercise that's good for your gut health.
But then when you get into really intense training,
Yeah.
that can actually increase gut permeability and potentially lead to inflammation.
Right.
We see this with a lot of endurance athletes, right? They have all those GI issues.
Oh, absolutely. It's super common.
So when we talk about increased gut permeability,
Yeah.
what does that actually mean happening in an athlete's body, and why is that bad?
So think of it like this, your gut lining, it's like a barrier, right?
Yeah.
And when you exercise really hard, sometimes that barrier gets a little bit leaky.
Oh.
And so things that should stay in your gut can kind of sneak into your bloodstream.
Oh.
And that can trigger inflammation.
Okay.
But it's interesting because on the flip side, sedentary people,
Uh-huh.
they can also have higher levels of those inflammatory compounds.
So it's like a balance. You got to hit that sweet spot.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance.
Okay, so this whole thing with gut permeability, this has like direct implications for your immune system too, right?
For sure. Elite athletes, we know they're more prone to getting those upper respiratory infections, those URTIs.
Yeah.
And this review talks about how specific probiotic blends have actually shown some promise in reducing these infections, especially in marathon runners.
Yeah, it's really promising research.
Dude, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, and what I think is really interesting here is the idea that we could potentially manage inflammation through the gut.
Oh, okay.
So if intense exercise is making the gut leaky and leading to inflammation all over the body,
Right.
maybe certain probiotics can help
Right.
by strengthening that gut barrier and reducing that inflammatory response.
That would be game-changing.
Yeah, it could be a huge deal for athletes.
Okay, so let's talk performance.
All right, let's get to the good stuff.
How does all of this actually affect how well you perform?
Right.
Well, there are studies linking the microbiome to both endurance and strength.
Yeah.
For example, there were those mouse studies where specific bacteria actually led to improvements in swim times. And that Veillonella atypica finding in marathon runners, that was fascinating.
Yeah, it was a really influential study.
Suggesting that it might help with lactate metabolism
Exactly.
and potentially improve treadmill performance even.
Yeah, in mice, they saw some really interesting results.
So for someone listening, who's really focused on endurance,
Yeah.
this suggests that understanding and maybe even manipulating these specific bacteria in the future
Right.
could actually improve stamina.
Absolutely. It's a very compelling idea.
Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing. Okay, so then there's these short-chain fatty acids, the SCFAs.
Right, like butyrate.
Exactly. So important. Yeah, so athletes tend to have higher levels of these.
They do.
And they're crucial for energy.
And gut health, of course.
Right, and they're even showing some potential benefits for skeletal muscle.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting research happening in that area.
So it's like your gut isn't just about digestion, it's
Yeah.
like connected to muscle metabolism too.
Exactly.
There are certain bacteria that play a role in protein metabolism. Yeah.
And that could impact muscle recovery and growth.
Absolutely.
There was even a mouse study that suggested a healthy gut is super important for gaining muscle after resistance training.
Right, those mice with the disrupted gut bacteria, they just didn't see the same gains.
Wow, so this is where probiotics, prebiotics, and symbiotics all come into play.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
probiotics, we know those are the good bacteria.
Right.
Prebiotics, those feed the good bacteria.
Yeah, like giving them fertilizer.
Exactly. And then symbiotics, that's the combination of the two.
The best of both worlds.
Right. And there are studies looking at how all of these things can actually enhance athletic performance.
Yeah, like that study where they gave a mixed probiotic to athletes and it increased their time to exhaustion in the heat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
So even fermented foods, they seem to have a generally positive impact.
Yeah, they're great for overall gut health, and there's some initial research suggesting they could be beneficial for athletes specifically too.
Okay, so last thing, this review touches on tracking an athlete's gut microbiome over time, right? Longitudinal monitoring.
Exactly, and this could be super valuable.
Oh, for sure.
You know, athletes go through these huge changes with their diet and training.
Absolutely.
Like, so just taking like a single snapshot might not give you the full picture.
Yeah, it's like trying to understand a movie by only looking at one frame.
Exact.
You need the whole story.
Right, and what's really interesting is that instability in the microbiome,
Right.
it's been linked to all kinds of issues.
Yeah, like GI distress, especially in athletes who are traveling a lot,
Oh, right.
and even some diseases.
So tracking it could help athletes maintain a more resilient gut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keep those good bugs happy and thriving.
Okay, so big takeaway for everyone listening.
What does this all mean for you?
Your gut microbiome, it's a way bigger deal than you might think.
Yeah, it's not just about what you eat.
Right.
It's also about who's eating it inside you.
Exactly. And all those tiny organisms,
Yeah.
they could be having this huge impact on your athletic health and performance.
Absolutely.
So it raises a pretty big question.
Yeah.
What if we could actually identify the specific microbes
Right.
that contribute to like peak athletic performance?
Oh, that would be incredible.
Could personalized nutrition and targeted probiotic strategies become as essential to training
Right.
as your diet and your workout plan?
It's a fascinating frontier
That's crazy.
with so much potential just waiting to be explored.
That's wild. I love it. Well, thanks for diving into all this with me.
Oh, this was fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
See ya.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.